Welcome to Cax Bar and Podcast, Canada's first podcast bar. What that means is you can come here for food, you can come here for drinks, you can also come here and record a podcast. Come on down, we're located in downtown Calgary, Alberta in the Beltline area. See you soon. All right, and we're rolling. I'm here today with Lonnie Croal. Lonnie is the director for Canadian Criminal Justice Academy. It goes by CCJA. It's essentially you get a criminal justice diploma, but it is college essentially for people getting into policing, right?
Yeah, that's right, Shawn. And thanks for having me. But yeah, it's a college, and I mean we're while we're small, we're kind of in line with other colleges that are offering diplomas, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, also we do the fitness testing. For some law enforcement agencies and stuff like that. It's a bit of an add-on, but I mean, our bread and butter is the academics piece and the learning, the classroom process. Yeah.
Did you found this as well, or
yeah? Okay. So I have an education in education, and so a couple of years back, I came back from the Middle East after teaching and directing a department out there, and I thought, hey, wouldn't this be amazing if we could have this really cool college coming out of Calgary and getting young people, and mature people as well. I use mature and young people at the same time because most of them are younger than I am that are entering into this profession. But wouldn't it be really great to have a dotted line right to policing, right to corrections? And we built this amazing curriculum. Peter Koppel, my business partner, and I are both co-founders. And yeah, he's retired Calgary police and I'm retired Edmonton police, and we're rock and roll.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Did you was this always like the end goal? Like after you finished being a cop, like you wanted to become like a mentor, kind of like a teacher?
Yeah. It became what I am and not what I do anymore. Yeah. And so I think education is the piece that just I get up every day for. I love it. And I love the engagement. Whether the lights are coming on using a firearm or academic piece or understanding criminology or how to direct traffic. I mean, it's all, when those lights do come on, it fills me. Yeah. And as I said, it gets me up every morning. So it's cool.
Yeah. So I was talking to you off the air here because we did a previous podcast with Brent Malley, another retired police officer. Cool. And I want to get Lonnie on the pod because basically, if you got a chance to listen to the one with Brent, I'm not saying Brent didn't have a great policing experience. Yeah, he had a lot of highs, but then he had a lot of lows from the job. And then I remember meeting Lonnie, and by the way, they do have a podcast as well for the criminal for CCJA there. Yeah. So stay tuned for that, and CCJA's information will be in the show notes after. But Lonnie, I just took in notice that you're like a really positive guy. It seems like very, very optimistic. And it seems like the job did not have very many lows for you at all. It seems like the more I talked to you about it, and I just found it a little bit fascinating because I always want to get multiple perspectives on something as complicated or as a high stress job, right? Yeah. Before we totally dive into that. Sure. Can you give people just a little bit of a bio about yourself, and then from there, we'll piggyback off of that.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe understand your mindset a little bit more.
That's going to be confusing all by itself. Bio. Wow. I didn't come from a family of police officers or correctional officers, even in the military service. But it's something I think there was a couple key pieces in my life that said, hey, that's going to be a fantastic opportunity. And I've always been driven to service. Born in Saskatchewan, kind of raised, back in the early 70s when people were migrating out west to Calgary during the heydays. That's when my dad, who was a truck driver at the time, him and my mom, we all moved out with my brother and sister. And that's where Calgary started. And so, we were the little hooligans up in Forest Lawn. And as I've shared in previous webcasts with my partner, Jenny, not only in Forest Lawn, but I was in the trailer court in Forest Lawn, and super proud of where I come from. Super proud where we're all heading to. So, grew up in Calgary. I mean, back and forth a couple times to different centers, but grew up in Calgary and graduated high school. Knew that policing was likely for me, but although I think my entire high school years I was kind of fostering around or kind of gravitating towards the military, Canadian Forces. So I went through the cadet program, the Navy League Cadets, actually here in Calgary. So I've been in uniform since I was 11. Actually, even before that, because I was a Cub Scout too.
Okay.
And so there's something about the uniform I love it. So Army Reserve as a high school kid, and off to policing right at 19.
Okay.
And so no schooling for me. Mm-hmm. Thank goodness I had great leadership, great sergeants, and making them look good, making our service look good. Mm-hmm. And so I initially got into Weyburn Police Service in Saskatchewan, and spent a couple of years there and realized that, hey, I needed something bigger in my life. And being small town policing, your community for sure, but there was something sexy about tactical and forensics and dogs and helicopters and diving. And I mean, there was just really cool opportunities out there that we didn't have in small town. So migrated out to Edmonton, and I completed my career in 2007.
Okay. So how long were you cop for then? In
25 years.
25.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Quick question. Forest Lawn back in the 70s, was that, and no disrespect to Forest Lawn, I have friends that live in Forest Lawn.
I love it.
But even back then, was that known as a rougher side of town as well?
It was.
Yeah.
It wasn't, so I don't think it was, it was called International Avenue at that time. We went to school with lower income folks, and we were a school bus, and we took city transit, and we hung out and had tons of fun on weekends. I got a really great buddy, Tom, who joined Calgary Police, and I was up in Edmonton, and we engaged later. But his dad was a Calgary Police member, and they were chasing us around doing ding dong ditch and ripping carrots off and crab apples and stuff. So yeah.
Okay. So so even back then, were you did Forest Lawn have an impact on your decision to want to be a cop? Because
no.
What did you see crime there kind of, and then felt
it was just different. Back in those, we're living in a different age now. Our parents called us in when the street lights went on, and even after dark, we were still out running around in our neighborhood.
Yeah,
there was no one doing break-ins and graffiti and stuff. We were just having good, clean fun, and we'd run around into Inglewood, and then we'd head over into Bridgeland and up into Mayland Heights.
Yeah,
and then home or fishing. Spent a lot of time on the Bow River. Didn't catch anything, but we weren't dodging bad guys.
Yeah,
it was a festival every day. It was Easter.
Okay,
every day, and I loved it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no. Again, just kind of gives me more of a feel for you. You seem very positive in general, just off the jump. Hey,
you brought up a interesting piece here. A little bit of disclosure is that I knew it wasn't the community that I grew up in. It was my family dynamic that kind of shifted it for me. And so I knew I wanted to be a cop in two places. The first was while a Cub Scout, or I was in Cubs, and this police officer showed up, and he was doing a presentation, and I was intrigued with these things called handcuffs. He brought these handcuffs out and said, I'm going to be able to slap these handcuffs on one of your cubs faster than you can say jackrabbit. I watched that. It was I was in awe of this guy that was in this bigger than life uniform. The second time, I would say for sure locked it solid for me, was during a 911 call that I actually had to make on my own parents.
Oh, geez.
And so, yeah. And, but when these guardians showed up in our home and settled us all down and dealt with the actual incident itself. And back in those days, it was a family problem. It certainly wasn't a problem where police are mandated to make arrests and that kind of stuff. This was considered a family problem. So us and mom, the kids and mom went one way, dad went another way, and that seemed to be going that way for a couple of years in our family. I knew that I had a bigger calling, and the police are considered our guardians and our I wouldn't say saviors, but most certainly the guardians of our neighborhoods for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, like that's supposed to be what the relationship between police and the community is supposed to be like, right? You know, I mean, have you ever seen that show, The Wire?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
Oh yeah, I love that show, and I remember, to me, I mean, you're the one with the history of actual policing, but I'm like, this has got to be pretty accurate. I would imagine, you know, like
yeah,
you know, and
I mean, beyond the Hollywood theatrics, it has, you know, 97% of your time or 93% of your time is dealing with a neighbor that cut down a tree on their garden, or you know, wrecked a fence, or kids are partying.
Yeah.
But there's that 5% that is, those are the stories. Those are the things that come up for all of us, and they get repeated over and over again until they become a little bit of myth, a little bit of fact, and in there somewhere there is some true and all that stuff. But yeah, it's truly it.
Okay, so just kind of diving more into this part, because this is what fascinated me. Can you give me an example of like what's something crazy you saw? You know, I mean, you can tiptoe around how you want to tell this, but yeah, like, I mean, and to further go on that, in your entire 25 years, like, is there a number of crazy events you could say you logged in your brain, like, wow, like that was a crazy experience as a cop. That was a crazy experience as a cop. Like, was there like 100 of them, 20 of them? Was there?
Yeah.
Because you just said 95% of the time it's just pretty simple. You know, like, oh, my neighbor cut down a tree, or
sure,
or something like that. Yeah. What would you say? I mean,
I don't know if there's a number. So yeah, I mean, those stories, those 5%ers out there, often I'm reminded of a particular event or a situation that we were in when I get our buddies together. And I wouldn't say they get embellished over time, but they certainly get a little bit stretched.
I think that's anyone's storytelling, to be quite honest. I mean,
they sound
like they're not full lies, but they're not, you know, like they get, you know, they get told in a way to make it entertaining as well. but as long as the gist of it was there, I think everyone understands that storytelling. There's,
for sure,
you know, a bit of that. But go on,
yeah. I mean, my time in Saskatchewan and Edmonton as well, those were some, I would have to say that the majority of those calls that we went to, whether it was a tree getting cut down across someone's garden or what have you, shoplifting, it almost always turned out that we're going to put a positive spin on this. It's going to be something, it's the one-offs that were odd. I had one of the ones that come up regularly is, and I wish my partner was here at that time, Christmas Day. And we're going to West Edmonton Mall. We're going to this call, and it was just dispatched. This is before we had technology. It just gets dispatched at one of the casinos at West Ed Mall. We're heading to a call. Naked woman losing her mind. And as you can imagine, there was a lot of male officers that were trying to get to that call, lights and siren, and we're just flying. And we happened to be the second or third car there, and we get into the casino. As it turned out, as the information was filtering through, she's in her late 80s and covered in fecal matter, and standing on one of the tables. Of course, we beelined it right back to the police car and tried clearing herself off the computer. Those are the. I mean, we had to respond to her mental health, of course, and we did. Well, not my team, or not me and my team, but we certainly took care of her. And that's just, I mean, a little example. The violence that, I mean, the collisions where people are treating each of those scenarios or each of those situations with compassion. And thank God I had great leadership and great sergeants, and taking care of them well. The number of sudden deaths, we call them homicides or suspicious deaths, we call them sudden deaths. And the number of sudden deaths that I attended, the smell is the first thing. And your previous guest with Calgary Police, I'm sure they'll be able to. There's no doubt once you get that sweet rotting flesh smell into your system. I mean, it's in your clothing, it's in your uniform, it's what you taste, and it takes a long time to get rid of that. I would suggest that, although I'm no psychologist, certainly I don't understand the science around PTSD and stuff, but the more we get to talk about that, the more we get to get together and engage it amongst our peers, the better off we are. And I'm not being preachy, is that I don't think that's a thing anymore. I don't think our young people or our patrol officers or the members of the response, I don't know if our police agencies provide this venue for this sharing. And I mean, there are clubs and bars and all that kind of stuff available for the guys to go to, but it's not encouraged. And in my time, it most certainly was encouraged. Let's get together, 100% of us, and moving forward with making sure that, hey, how did that go? My wife, she asked me one time, she goes, you go call to call to call all night with your guys and gals, and then you guys get together and have a drink and talk about the calls you went call to call to call. And is that a normal thing? And because we were newly married. I go, yeah, that's a normal thing. It's what we do. And most recently, I was at a meeting with the guys up in Edmonton, and it's not something we do anymore. You old guys used to do that a lot. And
like how young is this cop saying that they don't do that?
28, 29, okay. And they're young guy.
Yeah. And
tactical guy, actually, with Edmonton TAC. And so, I went through patrol. I went through tactical. And I mean, it was a very prideful time in my life. You know, for 6 years, I got to be a part of a full-time SWAT team.
Yeah.
And everywhere we went, we had guns out because you can't hide a machine gun.
Yeah.
And the use of force and the tools that come in the guns and the vehicles and stuff. But at the end of the day, we're there to do a job just like everyone, and these are just a tool. And we treated them with respect. Mm-hmm. And I never had to use any of my tools. How's that? To engage anybody? Not even. Certainly we pointed it at a few people.
Yeah.
That deserved it.
Mm.
And we de-escalated, got them all settled down, and thankfully to where we didn't have to go back there again. So, hostage taking, bombings, and I loved it. 1,000 miles an hour. And I think that culture of togetherness has lost a little bit lately, although I don't know because I haven't been in it for a while. But even the crappy cops, the best part about that is that we have an opportunity to turn that around with great leadership and stuff. But even those crappy cops, there are crappy cops, and we hired them. Let's fix them. Let's get them better. Let's coach them. Let's get them to a place so that they're not going home and kicking the cat, yelling at their kids. Nobody wants that.
Yeah. You raised the thing a moment ago that I heard this on Jocko, actually, because Jocko was talking about back in World War II or World War I, in that era, like when soldiers were done completing their whether the stint, if you will, they would talk to each other because they're on the boats, like coming back, like they had time to get with their comrades and really verbalize like all that they saw and like kind of work through the trauma of that. And then but then Jocko was explaining but in the last 40 years or whatever, the military kind of, like in Vietnam, you did your tour, and then all of a sudden one day you're literally in like a jungle in Vietnam, engaged in combat, and then within 24 hours you're literally walking in on a street in New York with zero time to process anything that happened and and take a better approach to not have that thing fester in the psyche. And then so right here, you were just explaining, you almost had on top of you, well, it sounds like your natural optimism, but you also just had these like checks and balances in place, such as going for drinks with your buddies, and just naturally happen. And in a weird way, it sounds like that should be made like a criteria, if you think, because like that's not the same as going to a professional psychiatrist. This is in many ways, this is like it's more comfortable, with your peers, right? Like,
and it's not recorded, it's not written down, it's not put in the mind's in the mind's eye.
There's a bro code there, probably.
There's a bro code, and Jocko, as you mentioned, I love that guy, and his podcasts are incredible. But back in those World War I, World War II days, Korea, whole villages, whole towns and cities mobilized. I mean, you'd have a Calgary regiment or a McTaggart, Saskatchewan battalion, or so, and all the men, generally back in those days, the men and boys enlisted together, uncles and cousins and parents and grandfathers, that kind of stuff. So they got to go overseas together. They got to live together. They got to train together. They came home together. Some didn't. And never underestimate the power of belongingness.
Yeah.
And what you can figure out and who's taking care of you, who's got your back. And that did change during Vietnam, because you got a 1-year stint and you show up brand new. You're the point guy. You're the guy at the front. Lonely place to be.
Right.
And the guys that have somehow survived all that, that last however many months, they're at the back of the bus now. Unlike during my time with TAC unit, I mean, we were in this together, and I loved every one of them. Even the little shysters when you got PO'd at them and what have you, they're still ours. We still own it.
Yeah. And
I don't know. I was a recipient of a few of those locker room conversations. I'll tell you what, and it doesn't feel good. But eating that feedback and digesting it and saying, I could have done a better job. And
like, as in the more veteran guys, like, we're kind of critiquing your job, and
you listen. This is a one-way conversation, and Dad shows up, and it was welcomed, and in fact, it was encouraged.
Yeah,
it was oddly in the culture. It was when they started treating you really nicely. It was like, what's going on here? You guys, what's happening?
Yeah.
It was, there is a certain amount of black humor, and I'm sure that your previous guest from CPS brought it up. There's black humor for sure.
Yeah.
But not for the public's. That's not for the public. It's not for your spouse, not for your kids.
Yeah.
And, but amongst each other, it was good. And,
it was a coping mechanism, like it sounds like, because it wasn't actually, well, the way Brent kind of explained it, it's not like some of those dark humor jokes was, a complete reflection of how they think, right? It's like they go to a crime scene where they saw like a head that was decapitated, and then I don't know, and when the one cop kind of like to the other one like makes a joke in the moment, but it was not that they're like twisted like that. Well, maybe a little bit, but
sure.
But it's that in that moment, it's like you're watching a decapitated head. So what are you just gonna like have your energy roll into this dark traumatic state, or you kind of make light of it and then control your energy and kind of roll with it like that? Like he was explaining, it was more or less like it's a coping mechanism.
It is. It can be a coping mechanism. I mean, other guys, journaling or therapy or talking to your significant other and making sure that
you talk to her about.
Oh man, kind of I'll tell you. I can also share, almost without exception, I can't think of a single amazing call that I went on in TAC that I wasn't going home at 3, 4, 2 in the morning, jumping on the bed, telling my wife, actually jumping on the bed, telling my wife what an amazing call we had that night. And I'm not joking.
Yeah.
And if she was sitting right beside me, she'd be saying, he's it's like waking up with the Easter Bunny every day. So, even when things were kind of nasty and didn't work out the way we wanted, even those are stories that get repeated today.
Yeah.
And as I said, I was in tactical. I had the John and John show. I had one John who was my first sergeant who I learned a ton from. He was my nemesis, but I learned a ton from him. And I miss him a lot. And then the second John came along and he was just different. But we knew where the lines were. always, and we took care of each other, and we had a professional job to do. Those scenarios or those scenes where, I mean, it's off the wall where, the head's hanging still in the noose, or there was a particular nasty, violent crime. Away from the public, away from the media, away from prying eyes. I mean, we can be anything with each other, and that never gets that should never go outside the doors, because it's our way of processing. I think it saved me, honestly, and as I said, getting everybody. I'm no scientist. I can't figure it out, but I think having those moments where we're able to talk about the head hanging still in the noose and the body's on the floor and the rotting flesh in the bathtub and all of that, figuring that out actually saved me. And when I got home, it did. Yeah.
Did you didn't tell your wife about the talks you have with your fellow cops, that you said should never be filmed or repeated, for you guys to process? Like, you don't go into those details with your wife, or does she, or do you share it with her? And obviously she won't share it with other people, but I guess all I'm trying to say is, like, don't you feel like that can traumatize her too?
Yeah, for sure. She was a school teacher and also a Army reservist as well, so she's used to and grew up with brothers. So, I would say that I shared most of the kind of calls we went on, and I know that there was a few particular challenging calls that, I mean, where I wasn't in a really good place, that thank goodness for her and thank goodness for my colleagues at work that kind of got me through that stuff. I'm thinking I had one in particular where she found me in the garage, hammered we had an attached garage, hammered out of my mind when she's driving in with my boys and stuff, and I was weeping, and I was because I just witnessed something incredibly difficult that I was a part of, and where a young person had taken his own life, and I felt at that time that I had some influence in changing what that could have been. Although we're not predicting the future, but I just felt that there was something I could have done and I didn't do it. And she talked me off the ledge, and I think that's being a spouse of a police officer, that she has to wear some of that as well. Thank goodness she was able to help me with that. And and I did seek professional help, and I'm all better now. Is that?
Yeah.
I was almost tongue in cheek, but yeah, it was a really messy situation, and I still wear it today. I can tell you the time of day. I can tell you how I was feeling. I can tell you the smells in the air. But yeah.
Well, I don't necessarily know revisiting it in that much detail is necessarily good, because that is trauma, right? Mm-hmm. But that's what I'm trying to ask. It's like I have a lot of respect for people, from cops to people who are in the military to even like professional fighters, things like that. Like, because like normal people, it would seem now they don't go through that much trauma. Like, or if they do, it really isn't compared to what's gone on in the past. Right. And then, but the fact that like you stand out to me because you didn't quit the job.
No.
In fact, you doubled down and loved it more and more and more, right? Like, so it's like I'm kind of like, that's what I'm trying. I guess one theme I was trying to break through as I was listening to you and Jenny talk and your guys' pod was, I was like, because I personally want to, I'm always into self-improvement. I'm like, there's something that Lonnie does with either it's his mindset or lifestyle, but he sounds like he can take on a lot of stress and not let it become a negative.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple lessons in all of this, and some of the things that my mantra is like Jocko and others, that, be careful who you're surrounding yourself with, and really paying attention to who you brought into your inner circle. I love it. The people that I brought into my inner circle, the ones that I trust and love, even when they become shysters and have kind of done me some dirt, or secretly wished I would fail, I still love them, and get that opportunity to just be that person I'm supposed to be with them. And because I'm such a community guy, I'm such a tribe person. And, everywhere I go, I'm looking for my group. And that's that power of belongingness piece that I look forward to. I have, the principles they're simple. And the underlying, if I had a quote is, what would you do in life if you knew you could never fail? And my community will work really hard so that I'm not failing. And if they do, we're human. We make mistakes. We say stupid stuff. We do stupid things. But I mean, what am I going to do if I knew I could never fail? And that's why I just, our college and my pathway as I went from retirement, going to the Middle East and running a program there and coming home and belonging to a couple of colleges. I just knew there's something cool out there, but I'm going to bring my entire tribe on with me. And they get to celebrate with me.
So it sounds like, maybe I'm just simplifying this too much, but it sounds like you literally have every aspect of your life set up for success, because you surround yourself with, like, your wife sounds like just a pivotal part of like your home life. Sounds amazing. Like, and then you're really cognizant of who you let in.
Right.
And then you got along really good with your teammates. Like, and even the ones you said you don't like, you create a viewpoint of, hey, he's still in the group, so let's get him up there.
Yeah.
And then sounds like just lifestyle wise, like you're pretty healthy. It sounds like too, right? Like you worked out all the time. I take it.
Yeah. Well, I just turned 25, and so I'm joking.
Yeah.
And I like to run. But that was the other thing is that there's so many distractions outside of policing that are there for their. One of the examples I'll use is early on in my career, the police fire games. I mean, they're Olympic style games for cops and firefighters. I mean, it's an activity. We got hockey, slow pitch, and I think one of the other pieces around not just having your community is just getting involved. And the number of times I can share this is that right after tactical, I went to training section, and I ran firearms training for a while. Then I got into our in-service training, and then was promoted within training section. The number of times I heard, and I'd love to bring these videos back, on day one of week one of recruit class, and had all these recruits lined up and saying, I just want to help my community. I want to contribute to my community. I want to be a great person in my community. I'm, 10 years, 15 years later, and some of them are bitter and twisted. So what happens between day one, week one, to 15 years where they got this bitter and twisted process where, they did this to me, and I'm not taking away any organizational negativity, but I mean, there's so much out there that, like the police fire games, like competitive shooting, like fishing and skiing and all that kind of stuff that our officers, I call it the Eustace. And this came from this is not mine, but the psychologist from Edmonton Police at that time, he called it the Eustace. I used to go to church. I used to have kids that loved me. I used to have parents that loved me. I used to have a wife that loved me. I used to fish. I used to drag race. And all of a sudden, one by one, those Eustaces are gone. I no longer am going to church. I'm no longer singing in a choir. I'm no longer in a pipe band. I'm no longer, and all of these things start falling away. And to a point where all your work is, or all you're doing, your hobbies, your activities, the love of life is just your police agency. And when you put that much emphasis on, or that much power in a relationship, I don't think it's healthy. It certainly wasn't healthy for me. That's why I competed and continue to compete in the police fire games. Why I love being in the classroom with these young people. Why
you have lots of variety in your life.
Yes. Yeah. Those Eustaces are, I'm busier now than I ever have been. And whether I'm volunteering for a Stampede breakfast with my gal, Diane, and myself, and I mean, we're just rock and roll with lots of stuff, and I'm busy.
Yeah.
And
man, no, that makes sense. And that's kind of what I it's kind of like what I suspected. Just in my observations of like basically like highly successful, impactful people. They keep their life well rounded, you know, because like even with Brent and his podcast with his old partner Shawn, and I was listening to it. I don't know if they published it yet, but I don't want to give too much away then. But but the gist of like you know, like they weren't blaming the job, like, oh, this happened to me. They were just explaining, well, these are the repercussions. Like Shawn, for instance, his first marriage fell apart, and he knows that the job contributed to that.
Sure.
But you know, he took ownership. It wasn't but he just said he was bringing the work home, you know, like, and then, you know, and that energy started being not good at home. Which again, it's fascinating to me because sounds like Diane, you said is your wife.
Yeah. Gal. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so, my relationship, my first marriage fell apart too.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And, still have complete respect for her and we're still friends. In fact, we get together with our kids. And so, but this is not perfect, and I'm far from having it right. That's for sure. And as that CPS member had mentioned, fecal matter hits the fan. And I think that even today, you know, I still share stuff that, with my significant other that is like, okay, I gotta figure this stuff out. This is therapy for me. And, it's enjoyable until I need to start making some sense of all of this. Is like, what is this supposed to mean? What is this glitch in my day what am I supposed to learn out of this? I think it's, that part has been super important for me. So there's peaks and valleys throughout all of that stuff for sure.
Would you say, sorry, this is kind of piggybacking back off of what we were talking about before, but again, would you say over the course of your career, what percentage of it were crazy stories again? If you had to
3%.
3%. Okay.
I mean, but I want to add to that.
Yeah.
Is that, I mean, even the non-crazy stories turned out to be really crazy stories. You know, people are wacko.
Yeah.
And fun and engaging. So,
but like the 3% within those stories, like, did it ever affect your, like, did you ever start to think like, man, like humanity's dark, you know, like some of the stuff you've seen?
Never.
Okay.
No, never. In fact, I just knew it actually pounded a stake in the ground saying, this is exactly why I'm policing. You know, I responded to as a patrol officer, responding to a couple SIDS deaths.
What's SIDS death?
Infant.
Oh.
Sudden infant. And so trying to figure out that, and you know, while we're responding, I mean, I hugged my kids a little tighter that day. And, you know, when hearing some of the violent crimes that are going off internationally as well, I mean, it cannot not affect you for sure. It's in the responses, learn from it. For me, I learned from it, and I recognized the value I had, and even kind of keeping, I wouldn't say control, but keeping my partner in check. Because while he's losing his shit, I'm trying not to. Yeah. And it was so this was the benefit of having a partner in that car whom you trusted and loved. And that was some 25 years ago. And I still have a relationship with them, both of them. And, but yeah, I think those SIDS deaths, the homicides, the sudden deaths, the collisions involving children that didn't make it, knowing that they were going to get the very best policing possible, and I was a part of that. And when I'm in that world, when I'm in their world, or I'm talking about their world, as you probably can tell, I mean, my tone steps up a little bit. I'm a little bit straighter in my posture, but it was an incredible experience, and I can't wait for having others having the same, because and I mean, our communities are needing are needing these people for sure.
The like, and sounds like the whole time you did that job, no matter what you saw, like you were you just said you doubled down on this is why I do it. Like you were happy.
Yeah.
You were happy. Eh?
Yeah. I was happy to be.
So you're the right guy for that job.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
really are. Like you're supposed to be a cop. It sounds like, you know, like
I was for sure. And I knew that since I was about 9 years old, 11 years old. The however in all of this, and because we were such a large agency in Edmonton, I just knew that when the homicide detectives showed up, thank goodness they're here. When the traffic investigators showed up, thank goodness they're here. So we got to unload all our stuff. When the paramedics showed up at this call, thank goodness they're here, because we got to unload all of that heavy onto somebody else now. Mm-hmm. And I mean, my wish and my hope for them was that they had the same supports that I did, but I mean, I couldn't control that part. Mm. But I had a small piece of that pie, and I did it very well, I think. And I screwed up a lot, and some of them were success stories too. So, yeah.
Okay, just switching gears a little bit here. The CCJA. Yeah. You're like right now. You're the teacher as well there, right?
I am certainly in that first with CCJA. Both my partner and I are going to be teaching. I mean, startups are expensive, and startups are challenging, and trying to manage people and trying to hire the right people and getting everybody. But not only do I get to be an exec in the college, but I also get to teach. But I also, I mean, the other part is that I get to go to, I mean, we're teaching them how to shoot guns. We're teaching them how to run. We're going to run with them. And so I'm still young enough. I can still keep up to them. And, when it comes to the marksmanship stuff, I want them shooting really, really well, knowing that when they get to Calgary or Edmonton, the RCMP, that they're going to be able to shoot really well. They know what a holster feels. They know what a trigger press is. They know how a baton feels and all that kind of stuff. We're not teaching any of the combat stuff. That's for the trainers, those amazing people over at CPS and EPS. But we're teaching them the why. Why do we need batons? Why do we need firearms? How is it so important that when they press that trigger, that's going to go in that center of that target, and it's going to and consistently. And then I'm going to let the Calgary guys or the Edmonton the training guys, I'm going to teach them how to do the razzmatazz and jumping over hoods and rolling around in the dirt and doing the combat stuff. Yeah.
The normally to the process to become a police officer, like you apply, right?
Yes.
And so taking a criminal justice diploma through something like CCJA, like that's not mandatory then, right?
No, it's not.
But okay,
you'd be crazy as a recruiter. I mean, we'd be crazy to hire somebody right out of high school. I started right out of high school, and it was, thank goodness I had a solid leadership and solid sergeant. However, you have to have, if you don't have an education, you've got to look really shiny. I mean, compared to the guy next to you, it's a competition. And right now with recruiting the way it's going, highly, highly competitive, and that hasn't changed. And so, yes, you've got to have a solid, well, first off, you got to have a high school diploma. You can't get around that in the country. An education, minimum 2 years.
Like some kind of post-secondary education.
Yes, a diploma. I want to critique. How's that? I recently had a conversation with a member of the RCMP recruiter saying, yeah, we're looking for critical thinkers. So we're looking for anybody that's got a trade I'm sorry, but going to trade schools are going to teach you the trade. It may not necessarily be teaching you anything about being a critical thinker at all. And this is where I struggle with, is that if I want to be a dentist, I'm not going to go to a pipe fitting school, and I'm not going to go to airplane school. I'm going to go to a place that teaches dentistry doing it really well.
So that's why, was that like one of the inspirations to start CCJA? You're like, hey, we need actual proper we need police college before you go, into the field kind of thing. I can't believe something like that didn't really exist already.
Well, there's been a couple, and right now Atlantic Police Academy or Atlantic Police College out in PEI is one of those agents or one of those institutions. But out west here, and I mean, we have lots of colleges and stuff.
Yeah, they can go to Mount Royal, get criminal studies, but it's not the same as this is like tailored for the job.
It really is. And it's tailored by those people from the job.
Yeah.
So as we get moving forward after the first semester, into semester 2, we are hiring. There's lots of cops and correctional officers out there with master's degrees that we have to have. We're getting them into the classroom, and I mean, already the feedback has been, oh my goodness, this is going to be great. I get to finish a career off. I get to teach for your school and getting them ready for a career that I love so much. And in a neighborhood right here in Calgary, and that's been super fun. And recruiters are looking for education, life experience. A part of what we're doing here, and even with CCJA, is, and my apologies for all those McEwen students and the Mount Royal students who we had coming up to Edmonton for practicums, because we had you photocopying and arranging desks and getting materials ready for a training course, where we did you a disservice. Now we recognize that your practicum needs to be overseas. I want to send you to South Africa. I want you to be with a dog. I want with a dog handler and a dog handler trainer. I want you to be in forensics, wherever that's going to be. So our gold standard, let's say, for a practicum is going overseas to South Africa. And I've sent a couple students there already, and they come back different. I mean, to a point where the agencies are fighting over them now. And that's ultimately, if I can graduate.
Why South Africa?
Well, this particular justice educational provider and internships is out of South Africa. It's called VA Corps, and they do a solid job of getting young people ready for teaching and nursing. But we suggested, what about policing and criminal justice? And they said, send them over. So we sent a couple of guys over there, and they came back, and they were 100 miles an hour. And I was very proud of what they got to experience, but also what they got to contribute to that community. And and so that's why South Africa at the moment, I've sent people to France and India on practicum stuff, but from an organizational piece, and that they specialize in this, it is South Africa for the moment. So the proof is in the pudding. We'll see where our graduates are heading to, but we're working really hard to get them that quality experience. One of the things I want to just a little plug on our admissions process, we've followed the advice of our board of advisors, and they said, take as many of the pains away from the police as you can in their recruiting process, which means debt reduction, fitness plan, polygraph. So our admissions program is the most difficult in the country, in all of Canada. And I'd suggest that once they get through the admissions process with our college, is that they are ready not only for an education, but they're also ready for a policing career. Now we're gonna figure out the why stuff. We're gonna get them that 2 years of why, so that when they go off to their trainers and they figure out the how stuff with CPS, EPS, RCMP, corrections, wherever they're gonna go, we're gonna take care of all that why stuff. So they're gonna have that trustworthiness and background that they're looking for, and the education they're looking for, the life experience by going to South Africa, the life experience they're going to have, and to come home to after that 2-year program, to come home to saying, hey, listen, I'm ready for graduation, and which agency do I feel most comfortable with, and which one will serve me better. So the power is now with the graduate, as opposed to the power being with the police agencies and the correction agencies, and saying, we're not happy about this individual, or that we're going to chase that one, or and I'm being flippant with that decision making. But I want the power with the learner, the graduate, not the other way around.
So it sounds like you just said it's hard to get into CCJA, but by the time you get in there, it'd be highly unlikely the person doesn't fulfill a full career with be in policing, right? Because otherwise it'd be insane. Like you went through all that just to get into the program. You're like, actually, I don't want to do this now.
Right.
That could be
right. Well, and to turn up the heat slowly, and this is where the shock and awe of being a new police member on the street is, with our faculty as well, is that being real gentle with them. Let's turn the heat up on them slowly. Let's figure out the whys really slow, as opposed to just showing up with a PowerPoint with all some serious bad stuff on it, like policing can do sometimes. And at the end of that 5 semesters, we're going to have them to a place where they're civilians with education, ready and are well informed as to what a career in policing is going to look like. If we have someone that loses us, shame on us, because we've not done a good enough job of providing that application based in the classroom and stuff. And then, I mean, we've got lots of plans. Our plans for extracurricular activities, as I said, with the Canadian University Shooting Federation, biathlon, volunteering for flipping burgers and flipping pancakes at Stampede barbecues and stuff at different not-for-profits, that kind of stuff. That's the community that we're looking for to build.
What are the 3 administrative, like how do you get into CCJA? Sorry, what is you have to look. You said you're looking for like life experience. I take it is there an age cap or?
Yeah, so in order for you to get to polygraph, you have to be 18. 18. I've got to have you at 18.
Yeah.
We've got a number of them right now at 17 who've applied, and but they won't have the polygraph until they're adults.
Yeah.
And so that they can go through that process. But I mean, high school diploma, and I'm looking for the kids at the back of the room. I was one of those kids. I mean, English was a tough thing for me. Math was a tough thing for me. I'm looking for a high school diploma, and that's it. And everything else is competitive. I mean, I'm looking for heart, not just what's going on in your head. And so that was a great question that we had at one of our presentations is, how important is my high school diploma grades to you? Well, they're not. I want to make sure that we get those kids who are at the back of the room and have been put at the back of the room. And whether it was the teacher, the school board, whoever put them in the back of the classroom, I want them in our classes, and him or her, of course, and so that they know that every day they get up to go to school, it's going to be an incredible day, just like my policing career was. So
okay, yeah. And how old can someone be to try to get into CCJA?
Okay, so our Constitution, there is no age limit. So I've got I think it's 44-year-old at the moment applying to come in, and doesn't have an education and
doesn't have a high school diploma.
Has a high school diploma,
okay.
Doesn't have a post-secondary education, and can't wait for that person to get going. I'm super excited about it. So yeah.
Well, how did you even look at his application then and even decide to give him a shot, or him or her?
Because some of us are late bloomers.
Yeah.
And I have had people approach saying, hey, listen, I was a single mom. I had a family early. I was, farm kids stuck on the farm, and parents had sold the farm, and now they got nothing left, and always wanted to be a cop. Lawyers, lawyer. I've always wanted to be a police officer, and I think this is going to be great. Excellent. And so you can go right into recruiting, or come and spend 2 years with us in a diploma, and let's get this. We get opportunity to get you into some crime labs in the back doors of some of these police services and stuff, and it's all about our relationships too. So yeah.
Okay. Because I don't know, like Shaquille O'Neal, I think, became a cop after his NBA career, right? So
Eddie Money was a cop too. It was
Eddie Money. Who's that?
80s guy.
Okay. Yeah. So I was just thinking in my head, because like on paper, like Shaquille O'Neal was over 40, trying to become a cop again. Because I would imagine you still would want to recruit 20s, right? Because you want their body to be able to sustain a career, because a guy who's 44, maybe he keeps in great shape, I don't know, but his career more than likely will probably just be a decade if it's good, and then he probably needs to.
That's 10 years of quality policing, and I'll share this also, that Calgary Police hired and he was for certain in his 50s. Edmonton Police we hired a 52-year-old and finished the top of his class.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a window of time that this person wants to remain policing, and shift work takes a heck of a toll on your body.
Oh yeah,
for sure. But I mean, we're rethinking what policing can be and look like. I mean, why you need a helicopter pilot? Hire a helicopter pilot and get him through as a police officer and get him into those aircraft. If you need a fraud investigator, bank manager, of course. I mean, 25 years of being a bank investigator, bank manager, and understanding fraud and how people are trying to rip each other off. I mean, hire a bank manager and make him a cop.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing this in the UK where they're hiring those technically, and in the military as well, they're technically advanced, have the education and background, but they're just not wearing the uniform yet. Let's get them in I mean, everything that we teach is on YouTube. Everything. Yeah. Including the use of force stuff. I mean, it's not a secret anymore. When I started, you weren't even allowed to hang up your body armor on a line or a police shirt for fear that your neighbors knew you were a cop. I mean, they all knew, but now it's like, I mean, everything we teach is on the internet, and we're not hiding it.
Yeah. Why were you trying to hide that you were a cop back in the day?
Yeah, I still don't understand it. It was, keep it on the down low, and
what are you supposed to say when people ask what you did? And you're like,
I always said I'm a postal worker.
Oh.
It was the oddest thing, but and people would call me on my BS and you're a cop, because
they eventually see you. Well, they would see you sometimes.
Yeah, no, I had it was RCMP. He was an RCMP drug detective, and we're doing interviews for just a great story. We're doing interviews for undercover operators. It was a short-term project, and I come out of a uniform, and so I spent a couple of days getting extra growth on my face, and I got an earring. I got an earring for a day. My friend put the earring through my ear, and I showed up for my interview, and I'm wearing scruffy jeans and clothing I got from some discount place. And his first name is, I'll just say H. H sits me down and he says, "Let me see your car keys." I said, "What?" He said, "Let me see your effing car keys." And he's right in my grill about it. So I handed him my car keys. The interview hadn't even started yet. He holds up my handcuff key that is attached to my car. He goes, "Can you tell me what kind of a drug dealer you'll be with a handcuff key on your keychain? Are you kidding me? Get out of my office." And that's as long as the interview went.
Holy.
I was never one for undercover.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly supported him with a cover team in tactical and in patrol. But I mean, they're an interesting bunch too. I mean, they live, eat, drink, party with the folks that they're the very folks that you're investigating. Yeah. And I got to be on the outside, sitting in a van, listening to the conversation, ready for the big one. So I mean, super fun. And you're on pins and needles, ready to pounce on them. And but yeah, no, I was never an undercover guy. I could never not be in the uniform.
Right. Well, yeah, because you seem also so forthright, Yeah.
So do you have any marijuana for sale? Yeah, that doesn't cut it. Yeah. Do you have any sativa? Yeah. Yeah. No, it doesn't work like that.
I do gotta say though, you look like Heisenberg though from Breaking Bad right now. So I'm like, I don't know, like
no, people don't approach me to sell dope to. Yeah. No, they want to know where the neighborhood 7-Eleven is or what have you. So this is great.
This might be maybe this is rude what I'm about to ask. No. Maybe and maybe not. I don't know. I was like, someone once said to me, like, hold on, let me find a way to word this. He said, police are actually more dangerous than criminals because they have to think like a criminal and outthink a criminal. So their psychology is actually goes into deeper realms than even a criminal. Like, so one's a murderer. It's like the police has to think beyond, like, right. Well, so, and then I was sitting there processing that for years about that statement. Obviously, it was just said in a whim, but I was like, yeah, because how are the good guys supposed to beat the bad guys unless they outthink the bad guys in their realm? Yeah,
I mean, great point. I mean, the reason why I believe that the investigations can be so successful, especially around. I mean, the solvability rates in Calgary, Edmonton are incredible. Actually, when you think about it, cold cases from 30 years ago, 50 years ago, that's crazy, which is brilliant. But with that mentality, then I believe the reason why they're so successful is because these bad guys have done it so often that they've just forgotten to cover their tracks and are so used to being in that element. Police officers, I'd say the ones that are incredible, and I'm thinking of a couple of them right off the top of my head, will, with compassion, with empathy, try to understand what's going on inside their heads. And can you imagine a sex crimes investigator trying to get inside of a serial pedophile? What that must do and must feel like, and to be able to do that, you're mirroring those emotions. You're mirroring. That's why we have that inner circle. That's why we have therapy. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe that. I mean, back in the day, I'm trying to remember even the name of the movie, but to catch a gopher, you have to think like a gopher. I believe that Caddyshack. But I think that great police officers can get inside of a bad guy's head, and with compassion and mirroring that, and what it must be like to be to commit these crimes and to turn it around so that they can get a successful prosecution out of them. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I know a lot of cops, and again, you got the 5%ers that are just don't give good customer service, or are twisted and bitter at the end of all of that because someone did something to them, versus that very compassionate, very driven for success, well-rounded individual. I think there's a lot. I think most of them are out there. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, when I'm calling the police, I want to make sure I'm not getting a knuckle dragger at my door, but I am getting somebody who cares about what happened to my kids. And the old measure of how many chins and how many push-ups and how fast you can run or how good a shot you are doesn't cut it anymore. You have to. I mean, it's the gray matter, mm-hmm. and it's how you can get inside the guys' heads, mm-hmm. and turning on and off. And so I think So mm-hmm. I don't know if that was the.
No, that's just right or wrong way.
That's the way I'm checking myself. Anytime I had an interview with a suspect, I'm just struggling to understand how this all could, and I'm just trying to get inside your head how this all happened. Mm. And often, especially for those that are, I would say, in the serial category, they're just, thank God I got caught. Mm. Thank goodness this ended. Finally someone was paying attention not long enough to that I finally got caught, and what a relief it is for me.
Yeah. Well, like that. That's their reactions. Yes. Usually. Okay.
100%.
Because they're probably, well, if they're not pure evil, they probably don't even want to be like that. They just like that.
Excluding sociopaths and psychopaths, mm-hmm. excluding those ones. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's this relief that you get to see this almost elation, and you've got to get some detectives on here, mm-hmm. and talk to them about career detectives as what it's like to be in the room when someone confesses, and what that must feel like, because it looks, from a human nature, it looks interesting for mm-hmm. sure. Mm-hmm. It's almost celebratory. Yeah. Thank God I got caught. Thank God this is over.
Right.
And you imagine, your whole life looking over your shoulder. You killed somebody. Mm. Your whole life looking over your shoulder, waiting for the next guy to show up.
Yeah, well, but none of that's good, because now you're going to prison, and fine. You don't have to look over your shoulder in that way, but you're more like, you're not carrying something anymore, but right. But now it's all bad.
It is all bad.
Because I mean, the more I live life, I don't know, I have a deep empathy, compassion, like just for the whole human experience, because I was so naive, because when I was a kid, I had such a great upbringing, such a peaceful life.
Sure.
And then by the time I I'm 38 now, but when I think back at child Shawn versus adult Shawn, entrepreneur Shawn now, and I'm looking around, and just the things I've seen or noticed, and like it's like so many people's lives are so terrible, and they can't like necessarily get out of their own way, and it does kind of like I don't know, kind of bums me out sometimes if I let myself think about it too long. That's why I don't know, like I don't have any kids right now, but if I ever do have kids, I think I'm just gonna triple down on doing what my dad did, which is like loving me, and and show me a lot of like support. But I really got to like let him know, I'm like, hey, like please, like some bad decisions are not good no matter what you think you get out of it. It's like a story or something, because these things compound, and next thing you know, you might morph into one of these people that end up having a screwed up life, like,
and boom, I'm going to say that, Shawn, and boom, along comes this guy or gal dressed in this outfit looking like Santa Claus, who's this guardian, saying, you know what, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
You get that one person, those 3 police officers that went down into my basement when I was 11 years old and settling us all down. All 3 of us kids were in that same bed, scared shitless.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the day that things changed for me, because now I knew that there was something good that's going to come out of this. I didn't know it at the time, but it felt good. It felt, you're right. Mm-hmm. Every now and then, these amazing men and women out here who are policing come across someone's life and makes a difference. And it may not be learning that I did today. It could be down the road. Nothing may never change, but certainly they tried. And that was, for me, that's the capstone in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lonnie, I'm thinking we'll wind down this podcast for today here. Hope you had a good time. I mean, I love chatting with you, man.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Maybe we do it again down the line or something, and maybe bring one of your pals.
Partner. I want to bring them, both of them. I want to bring them down here. We have some fun.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone, in the show notes again, CCJA's information will be there, and be on the lookout for Lonnie's podcast as well. On behalf of CCJA, but I mean, I'm trying to convince him just to go off the cuff here.
Thanks, Shawn.
Tell some more, like, tell some more of that history with the stories, but maybe get into more detail or something like that.
Great, yes.
So anything you want to plug or anything before we take off?
No, stay tuned. I mean, we're not going anywhere. And again, just for what it's worth, I want to make sure that for our police officers out there that are on the streets doing what they do great, just make sure that, I mean, you go into that basement, you see those 3 little buggers in bed hiding from their parents, that's your job to be a guardian, and you're doing a great job up there. Calgary loves you. Edmonton loves you. Alberta loves you. Just keep doing a great job, you guys. I mean, honestly.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, you heard it from Lonnie there. Okay. Bye, everyone.